These are the 12 unusual flying reptiles and animals. Let's begin with number 12, the mobula. This flying ray is quite similar to the manta ray, except for the whole flying thing. It's actually a genus with a variety of different species. The most popular though is commonly referred to as the devilfish. The rays are massive, they can measure up to 17 feet around. They are less flying and more awkwardly leaping and then belly flopping. It looks ridiculous that they can't get very far, but they definitely prove that flying isn't just for birds anymore. Sometimes they can reach heights of up to 4 to 5 feet in the air, or they can stay closer to the water and glide along its surface. The flying is hard to catch because it's done so erratically, but anyone who has ever seen it says it's quite the sight. Number 11, sugar glider. These adorable little animals are a type of marsupial that has the ability to glide through the air. They're named after their love of sugary foods. The sugar glider looks and acts a lot like a flying squirrel, but they aren't really closely related. The gliding is an effective mechanism to both reach food and evade predators. The sugar glider is naturally found in Australia, New Guinea, and Indonesia, but they have recently gained popularity as an exotic pet. It is actually one of the most commonly traded animals in the illegal pet trade. Only certain areas of Australia allow the domestication of sugar gliders, and they are legal throughout much of the United States. Breeders of sugar gliders have to be licensed and regulated. Number 10, flying frog. A flying frog is just what it sounds like. This frog can achieve flight because of its large webbed feet that it extends outwards. The earliest account of these frogs was made by Alfred Russel Wallace. He was a British naturalist who lived from 1823 to 1913. How his head didn't explode when he first saw it will forever be a mystery. Since then, we have discovered that 3,400 frogs have developed flight independently from one another. The frog can control its gliding by maneuvering its limbs, which is actually one unsettling sight. Number 9, flying fish. There are over 50 species of this unusual type of fish. The fish are divided by the 2-winged fish and the 4-winged fish. Before the fish begins its flight, it reaches a high speed of about 30 body lengths per second. When it breaks the water, it travels at 37 miles per hour, and it can glide for up to 100 to 160 feet. Some people believe that this fish is on the border of flying and gliding because it flaps its wings, but since the flapping fails to produce any kind of upward draft, it is still classified as gliding. The gliding of these fish has been found to be as effective as certain flying birds, so suck on that, birds, you're not that special anymore. Number 8, flying squirrel. There are 44 species of flying squirrel. Not to be confused with sugar gliders, the flying squirrel is a rodent and not a marsupial. The flying squirrel can glide between trees for up to 295 feet. The flying squirrel also differs from the sugar glider because it uses its large tail to stabilize its flight, and it can also use it as a brake. They aren't born with the ability to glide. They can practice gliding at 5 weeks after being cared for by their mother, and they are ready to leave the nest in 10 weeks. Flying squirrels can also be nocturnal like sugar gliders. Although flying squirrels are sometimes nocturnal, sugar gliders are always nocturnal. There are several theories about why the squirrel developed the ability to glide, but the prevailing theory is resource and energy management. Climbing trees all the time has to get tiring, right? There must be an easier way down. Number 7, flying squid. Unlike most animals on this list, the flying squid is actually a predator. Their tentacles and arms both have sharp teeth that can be used to grasp prey and bring them to their beaks. The gliding that makes the squid famous is an adaptation that can be used to escape other predators. Some of these squids travel in groups and they can glide for up to 160 feet. The squid can't gain much height because of its weak fins, but achieves flight by expelling water out of their funnel. This would make this weird animal the only one to use aerial jet propelled motion. Move aside, giant squid, your awesome factor just got beat. Number 6, gliding ants. These unique ants don't necessarily use their gliding powers for anything super special. They are arboreal, meaning they live in trees. They develop the ability of flight for when one of them falls or gets knocked out of the tree. They are able to maneuver to the point that they can make 180-degree turns to make sure that it is their home tree that they are landing on. They can do this with an 80% success rate also. Some of the ants glide in the conventional head-first gliding position that can be found in pretty much every other living thing. However, some actually glide abdomen first, which is extremely unusual. Number 5, flying dragon lizard. Draco volans is one of those weird things that shouldn't be allowed to exist. A flying lizard sounds like something that should have gone extinct around the last ice age. Luckily for us, the lizard doesn't so much fly as it does glide. It only does it when threatened, and it can glide for up to the length of a half a football field. It flies using flaps of skin that can extend if it ever feels any kind of threat. The genus Draco is actually home to many flying reptiles, which makes sense with the name. Like most lizards, Draco volans mainly feeds on insects like ants. Number 4. Flying lemurs. Colugus, despite their name, aren't really lemurs. True lemurs are primates, and colugs are the most closely related animals in the world to primates without actually classifying as one. They are the mammal that is the most highly adapted for flying other than bats. The limbs, tail, and head are all connected to promote flight. They can travel 230 feet from a tree to tree without any loss in height. They are actually incredibly terrible flyers. They don't have opposable digits and don't possess a lot of strength. They climb trees by small hops up the tree with its sharp claws. The flying lemur was originally presumed to be a close relation to bat, but that was eventually discarded. Number 3. The flying gecko. This gecko is a species of Asian gecko that has adapted to be able to glide over short distances. Through adaptation, they have developed flaps on either side of their body, webbed feet, and a flat tail. Like most geckos, the flying gecko also has the ability to camouflage itself. The flying gecko will even fold its skin flaps into the tree bark so that it can blend into the tree even better. Sometimes the only way to identify these little buggers are to identify their eyes. Also, like most geckos, they have microscopic hairs on their toe pads that enable them to cling to any surface, including glass. The flying gecko is also a very popular exotic pet. They should have a 15 to 20 gallon tank, and they shouldn't be touched often lest their skin become damaged. Number 2. Pygmy glider. This adorable possum is the world's smallest gliding animal. It measures in at 3 inches and it weighs just 12 grams. It glides like a lot of other animals, meaning that it has flaps of skin that extend from its hind and front legs. The possum's tail is the same length of its head and body combined, and it's used to stabilize flight. It's also how the animal gets its official name, feather-tail glider, because of its resemblance to a feather. Their habitat is in the eastern seaboard of continental Australia. Fossils have been found 500,000 years in Australia, dating this species back quite a while. This animal was even on the reverse side of the Australian 1-cent coin until 1991. Number 1. The flying snake. Snakes are terrifying enough without them flying through the air, but our nightmares were answered with this flying snake. The snakes are only mildly venomous, which means that it won't kill you, but it will still give you a small heart attack. The snake achieves flight by its rigid scales on its belly to climb a tree and flinging itself off a branch. The snake maintains flight by concaving its body and making lateral slithering motions. Believe it or not, this snake can actually glide better than most animals on this list, even without wings or any other type of limb. It can glide for almost 330 feet. Their ability to glide has been a subject of interest to physicists for quite some time, and they hope that if they can better understand their ability of flight, then it can contribute to the future of technology.